Guys, how you doing? How is everyone? All right.
Not bad, not bad at all.
Good, good. That's what I like to hear. Um, just for everybody that's going to be watching this later, I'll kind of run through who's here at the moment. We have Thomas on the top right, who is what? Am I right in thinking, Thomas, you're leading the action and enable, or
Yeah, so
one of the people leading, one of the
I'm
people
one of
leading?
the enable stewards. I think there's about seven. We've just had a few more, so there's I
Yeah.
think seven, nine, something like that. And we voted yes to strike about 6 months ago. So we've done this round, and now we're balloting again. So we're kind of in the same place as you guys, but we've done it before.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for giving up your time tonight, Thomas, and coming along and um, try to kind of enlighten our members as well to maybe how it looks and what industrial action might look like for us as well, you know. So obviously we've got Anne Caroline, top left, and bottom right, we've got Billy. Um, the guys are here to kind of ask us questions and get through, maybe keep us right if we're straying off the path. So, aye. So, Billy, are you want to fire
Yep.
away?
Okay, Martin, thanks obviously for those introductions and welcome Tom as well. And thanks to Anne Carling for setting all this up. Okay, Martin, so what we'll do is we're going to strike action and we're doing an industrial ballot. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, so within Capability Scotland, our membership took a consultative ballot and it was rejected. The pay offer was rejected. So now we're doing a formal industrial ballot action to make it legal so that we can move the fight on, you know. So that's kind of why we are in an industrial ballot.
Okay, thanks for that, Martin.
Mhm.
Okay, and so how long, if we get the ballot and we make the thresholds, how long would the strike action last?
Well, the mandate would last until the 29th of April. If we go over the threshold of 50% per plus one, uh, and we would look at it service by service and be strategic about where any strike action that we would take. We would kind of maybe even look at the enable model and what they guys have done, which seems to have been really successful.
Okay, Martin. Okay, so I think even more important than that, Martin. So why are you voting yes to strike action, and what advice would you give others who are still to vote or are waiting to vote?
Well, the reason I'm voting yes is because I'm fed up with being told that I really matter. I'm fed up with being told that care workers really matter. And then when it comes to the dishing out of the money, to especially us guys in the care sector, it's just empty promises and empty words. I want care workers not to have to work an extra 40 hours a week to have a decent standard of living. You know, work-life balance is really important within the care sector, within care workers, but we increasingly find ourselves having to work a lot of extra hours just to kind of make ends meet. So it shouldn't be like that. It doesn't need to be like that. We want to be respected for the work that we do as well. So, and that comes down to numbers, you know, that comes down to pounds in the pocket, in my opinion.
Okay, that's great, Martin. So one other question I would ask you, just on a very personal level, is when you got your ballot paper, can you tell us what you did with your ballot paper and what would you advise everybody who's got a ballot paper and they've not sent it back yet?
Listen, guys, you know exactly what I've been out there saying, speaking to people. It is crucial that you vote yes. We want this is our time. This has never been done in Capability Scotland before. This is our time to stand up and be counted. Please return your ballot paper. It'll take you 2 minutes. It took me 2 minutes to put a wee mark on the paper and then post it back. I think Thursday is the last day. Am I right in thinking that, Billy? of
Yes.
requesting a ballot. If you don't have a ballot, please request one. Get it in. You know, it's now. It's now. Now is the time, as they say, guys. Please do it.
Okay, just for clarification there, as Martin said, Thursday the 23rd of October will be the last date that you can request a ballot paper. If you've not got a ballot paper and you should have got one, then please get in contact. There's loads of contact numbers and emails, even on the Facebook page. Contact somebody, contact Martin, and we will get that ballot to you. Okay, Martin, that's great. Thanks very much. So Thomas is glad came along tonight, which is great. Thanks, Thomas, again. So Thomas, I'll ask you some questions, and if you can give us some answers on your experience in previous, what it's like to be on a ballot. So we'll start with, what does it mean to take strike action in social care?
Yeah, so as Martin was saying, you guys haven't been on strike before. In the history of capability, it was exactly the same for Enable. It's the same for many of these care companies across Scotland. So we're all finding our own way as to how this all works. It is very different if you worked, anyone watching this has worked in the private sector before and been a member of a union where you can see they're out there making a profit. You're saying we're not getting a big enough cut of that profit. We want more of that. That's a much simpler way, and you're trying to disrupt the employer, trying to withdraw your labor, make it difficult for them so that they concede and they have to give you more money. It's again another step to say, disputes that have happened in the health service or strikes in public services generally. Again, where in the health service you've got a government department, they fund it, so you can go to the government, you can say we need more money for the staff, or the service isn't going to run. Again, that's quite simple. Whereas in social care, it's a bit more complicated. We've got our little employers with services around the country, some in some local authorities, some in other local authorities. Those employers are funded by social work. Social work gets their funding from the government. So it's a bit of a windy road to get to where the money is, which is why we have to take this action. Our dispute is with the employer. That's legally how it works. But we recognise that they are actually funded, and our pay is funded by the Scottish Government. So striking in social care is complicated. And as Martin was saying, there are strategies for how we conduct a strike in social care, which look a bit different maybe from how a traditional strike works, where everybody just downs tools, steps outside the factory and tries to shut down the work. We're obviously trying to do this in a way that protects the people we look after.
Great, thanks, Tom. Okay, on that is what obviously with that situation, as you said, you don't just down tools and walk out, because you look after human beings. So obviously there's a real human element to this. So obviously which further adds to the complications. So in your own words, Tom, as I said, you've obviously got experience now you have taken. So what does it mean for the service users when you take strike action?
So what we try to do in Enable, and I'm sure Martin will feel exactly the same in capability, is to have little as possible to no impact on the people we look after, particularly people who have essential services, severe needs, support needs. Those people will be protected and they will not be under any detriment at all. There are instances where services might be at the lighter end, where they might be redesigned or things might take place on another day. There are strategies around that, but fundamentally what we're looking to do is to have as little effect as possible on the people we care for and have as much impact as possible on the Scottish Government, and to get our voices heard, to get people paying attention, to get the press to have a look, to get the public to understand what we're asking for. So just to say a little bit more about that, I think there is an impact to us not taking action for the people we support. We're in a sector which is really struggling. There's been crisis after crisis, even before the pandemic, but certainly after. If we continue the model we've got now, we'll have providers like Capability and Enable. The charity providers will be reducing. This is already happening. Private providers will be increasing. They're not interested in providing the best service possible. They're interested in profit. and the system will just degrade and degrade if we don't do anything about it. And this is us doing something about it. So the impact to us, it's in, you know, our service users are always at the front of the mind, and it's for them that we're doing this as well.
So would I be right in saying that you got a lot of support from the service users and their families because they understood why you were doing it?
Yes, and it's complicated when it's your brother, your sister, your child who gets that service. Of course, it's complicated, and nobody wants to be disrupted. But fundamentally, and I'm sure anyone watching this video would agree that it's the parents who understand. Parents and families understand the work we do, sometimes much better than management. Parents and families see day to day what happens when those shifts don't get filled, when there's sickness rates, when there's staff leaving the job all the time. Parents understand what it's like to have a disrupted service, and parents also understand how the money works, and they recognize that we're not paid what we should be paid. So yeah, definitely, anecdotally, I think across the board, those conversations happen. And yeah, I would say families have been very supportive, and the people we support who are able to understand what we're doing as well, they would want staff who are motivated, well paid, with good morale, and looking forward to coming into work.
Great, Tom. Okay, and finally, and if that wasn't complicated enough, the final thing is life and limb cover. We hear a lot about it.
Yeah.
You guys have went through it, so if you could share some of your experiences, Tom, and just give us what's and all, because we're going to have to go through it, that would be great.
Yeah, so like I was saying, this, UNISON itself covers a lot of public services. It's not as simple as saying, I make coffee, I'm not making coffee today until you pay me more, because that's disrupting someone who's buying coffee. But we look after people who we provide an essential service. So fundamentally, Life and Limb is there to make sure that nobody we support comes to any harm through the action that we're taking. And we do that through negotiating. So Martin and stewards in capability, advised by UNISON staff, will have negotiations around what the strike looks like. So basically, I'll sort of give you the rundown of kind of how it works in Enable. We through information that we already had within the stewards committee, we worked out that Enable have a system of categorizing services by how important they are or how essential they are. And that was a system that they used during the pandemic. So when there was high numbers of staff who weren't able to go into work, which might be similar to a strike where large numbers of staff won't be working, but services are categorized by need. At the very top end, there were 4 levels of need. At the very top end, that was services where you couldn't have anyone else do that job. You could only have staff who were already in that team on that shift, because otherwise the person is of such need that would cause detriment to them. Whether it's a safeguarding issue, whether it's a health and safety issue, they need to have the people that they know in their service. Obviously, those teams, there might be members of the union in those teams who will be striking. So those services might be covered by staff who aren't in the union. In extreme cases in those services, the union can exempt members and can say, look, you're supporting the strike. You have our complete honor and permission to go into work today to enable the strike to go ahead. Those are very rare cases. And then from that top tier down, you have services which have to be at full cover, but can be covered by anyone who's well trained enough, or someone who's been previously in the team, or a member of the management team. Then the third layer, you had services where the service could be rearranged. So we had individual strike days. You might have a service that runs on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you move the Friday to a Thursday if the person we support can do that, or an appointment might be changed or adjusted. And then the very final level of support, which I'm not sure, I don't work in capability, so I'm not sure what you guys get up to, but in Enable, that would be social support, where people have a few hours here and there to get out into the community, where if that had to be cancelled, that would cause no harm to the individual that's being supported, and that would be able to be rescheduled and so that would be cancelled for the day. So that's kind of how it worked in Enable. As I said, that's a negotiation that UNISON have with Enable. Fundamentally, it is UNISON who take the decision to exempt members if they have to do that. It was, in our case, it was on Enable to prove that this person could not be covered by anyone else, that there was no way that they could find any other way to fill that shift, and that person had to go in. Otherwise, there was a real risk of serious harm to that individual. In those cases, it's the union who decides that member of the union can be exempted from the strike. There were misunderstandings throughout the process. There were managers at the local level who were telling people that they were exempted when they weren't. Were telling people that services were exempted when, you know, it's not up to Enable to exempt services, or services couldn't be exempted. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, when it comes to a strike day, everybody who is a member of the union should be striking. And the only person who can exempt you from striking is your union. Obviously, if you are on maternity leave, if you're 1 year from retirement, there are other factors. But if you want to strike, you should be striking. And the only place you will hear that you should not be striking if you're a member of the union is from UNISON.
Great. That's fantastic, Tom. That was comprehensive, and hopefully that should answer all the questions that people have had regarding life and limb cover. And Caroline, you want to come in?
I do. I have a bit of a question, Martin. You mentioned something really interesting earlier, is that I've had some people, while doing a little bit of phone banking, ask like how long the strike would take, and you just said that with the example that you had is perhaps to look a little bit about what Enable did. I'm just wondering, Thomas, can you explain a little bit more about how you guys choose, like how you did the strike technically, to give an idea of what it could look like in Capability Scotland?
Yes, I mean, you've heard a lot from me already, but yes,
You're the
more
guest of honor.
So in Enable, and I would imagine Martin and the team will be, I mean, you'll have the same priorities as us, which is to cause as little impact as possible on the people we support, while getting as much attention to the strike as possible. At Enable, we had a strategic approach in our first round of strike action. In I think 2 or 3 weeks within that time frame, we well, first off, we spoke to our membership. We put out a survey asking members where they were, would they be willing to strike, and we looked at that data. And where we were strongest, we held strike days on individual days, non-consecutively. So we would have one local authority come out on a 1 day, then you would have a few days off, then another local authority. And so everywhere would strike once and once only for 1 day. This also protects your pay packet, which as low paid workers, this is really important. We recognize that if you're going to be off work, not getting paid, this is really serious for low paid workers, for people who work in social care. And that makes a difference for who's able to come out and who's actually able to take that hit. So yes, we scheduled it 1 day at a time in around 2 or 3 weeks, and we had 4 days in that first round. And then after we concluded that, we had another 2 days in areas where we were strongest again.
That's brilliant, thank you. I think that really gives like a good example, because some people had concern that we would perhaps take days or weeks of consecutive strike action, and that's just not something that we can do in this sector. It's already hard enough to do it in any sector in this country because of the legal ramification, but especially in social care, we can't ask you guys as low paid workers to take more than several days of action. Like, that's just not possible.
Okay, Tom, I'm aware you've spoke a lot, and it's been great, comprehensive information. I'll just ask you one last question again, because obviously yous have been through it, and this is the questions that we're getting asked. So what happens with pay if your employer doesn't pay you? What was your experience with the pay?
Yeah, so firstly, and again, not being capability employee, I'm not exactly sure how your guys' shifts work in Enable. A lot of people take shifts close together with sleepovers. That's to make ends meet, obviously, on the wage that we're that we're paid, which means that the traditional strike, which is a 24-hour period, for a lot of people that could be a whole week's wage or half a week's wage. And again, as low-paid workers, wanting as many people to come out and support the strike as possible, we know that's not going to fly. So in Enable, we scheduled the strike to affect one shift and one shift only. So if you're doing a day shift into a sleepover into an early shift, you would select the one shift, so that day shift or that early shift, depending on the day of the strike. That's the day you would be striking. You would not be going into work. We would expect you to be coming out to support the picket. And we would also expect that capability would not pay you for that shift. And you would then come away a month later in your pay slip, and there would be a deduction from your pay slip for the value of that shift. It might say strike, it might say industrial action, and there would be a reduction for the full cost of that shift. Now, in UNISON, any member of UNISON, and you can sign up on the day of the strike and come out and strike. Any member of UNISON who's on strike is entitled to strike pay. So that's up to £50. You need to show us your pay slip. So 1 month's normal pay slip, and then the pay slip which shows the deduction. And it's got to, and we'll pay you up to the value that you've lost, up to £50 strike pay.
Great, lovely. Tom, that's been absolutely fantastic. So obviously, again, I'm not going to ask any more questions, so it's been great. So what we'll do is, Martin, just for any final words for your Capability Scotland members.
Yeah, listen, guys, for us, this is a pivotal moment. It's time that we join our brothers and sisters in Enable. It's time that we join our brothers and sisters in Blue Triangle and absolutely seize this moment. We've all heard the Carpe Diem, so I'll not sing the song, right? But, you know, we've came this far. It's time to push that bit further. It's time to grab what we're worth. Nobody's going to come and give it to us. Nobody. We need to take it. This will ultimately mean better quality services for our customers, as we call them. Better quality of life for the workers. You know, it's just time. This is the right time. Please vote yes. Return your ballot.
Great. Any final words, Caroline?
No, just remember to get in touch with me if you've got, and if you still don't have your ballots, you need to do it before Thursday. But let's get that vote out. Don't wait. Don't leave your ballot in the kitchen. Just take it, sign it, put it in the prepaid envelope. You don't even need a stamp. Just put it in the post box, and that's you done. And that means you also get off our call list if you confirm to us that you voted.
Okay, Anne Caroline stole my thunder, so get your ballot back. Thanks very much, Tom, for coming on tonight. Much appreciated. And thank you, Martin. And take care. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
But yeah.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.